The wildest show on wheels is about to roar into your living room.
High truck action. Stepping onto the track is maybe a truck named after my buddy Mike Galloway. This is the Oklahoman Ken Goen behind the wheel from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. They named this one after you, didn't they?
Pretty close. This gentleman is the 1982 and 1986 national champion, and when he's not on the full circuit, he runs a business called Driller's Engine Supply in Oklahoma City. Now here Kenneth sits with 8 cylinders with 606 cubic inches. And they build in their shop in Oklahoma, Driller's Engine Supply, they build engines where one cylinder would have as much as 600 cubic inches.
Wow.
And there can be V12s and V14s. They're just gigantic motors. There's a shot of the Driller's sign. All of the Driller's vehicles, all of his company vehicles, are black in color. This is a husband and wife team.
Mike mentioned 606 under the hood. It's a Rodak. Is that correct?
On a Rodak block. The heads on it are an aluminum Pontiac designed head. There's a good shot. You can see the heads there off on the right in their Pontiac, off of a big Pontiac motor. Some very exotic racing. Right down in front, it's the starter hanging out in the front.
Go ahead, Mike.
Here comes Kenneth. And this man, if anyone can do it, he can.
Was a good pull front to back. We'll see if it's enough for the lead, but a fine pull for the Oklahoman.
He knocked on the door of Dave Ribeiro's pull with one trick pony. Really got close. A good hook for Kenneth. Now you notice Kenneth also ran the line, but he ran the opposite side. He was on the right-hand side of the track.
Just a good hook. This thing was dialed in right from the start.
Right on the right-hand side. Kenneth doesn't waste any time with his Lewis Boyd-built motor. Opens the butterflies up. Look at the ground speed on this truck. Really building a lot of ground speed, making a very good hook. A tremendous effort on Ken Yuen's part. A very fine hook.
Kind of bouncy, too, so the track must be a little bit bouncy down there tonight. Not a very giving track.
The track, it's basically hard with a crust on top of it, and they're going to break it loose.
And like the wind that comes sweeping down the plain, Ken Goen from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, in the Oklahoman, goes 151.7 and moves into third place. Fine pull for the Oklahoman. And now rolling onto the track is the prosecutor, David Ravella, under the roof of the Oakland Arena. 59 Chevy, 427 under the hood. He's from Hollister, California. Took him 3 years to build this thing, and he's pretty proud of it.
You know, one thing I've got to say about these people, they do more than come for the competition. They come to have a good time, and I enjoy being around them. Dave and Pappy, the prosecutor and the judge, 2 fine people.
Not quite to 150, and interesting strategy there. He rolled it for about the first 35, 40 feet before really letting it wow.
Exactly right, Ken. We're seeing also that the track's coming apart. The traction's not quite as good as it was earlier. And we're going to see some people make some deep hooks, but they're going to do all of it with horsepower. Let's watch him. The tires just kind of easing into it a little bit at a time. And right in this area is when he really calls for the horsepower. It's there. It hooks good, but look at the six-pack coming up the top of the sled already. Putting the weight on him. The prosecutor just can't handle all the weight tonight. Brings it to a halt.
So for the prosecutor, no verdict tonight. Only a pull of 141 feet, 11 and a half inches. Well, here is Jess Alarcon in Rough Rider. He's from Dos Palos, California. 61 Chevy, and a 542 Joe Bogosian engine.
What Rough Rider? It's a tough truck. You can do it. Got good hook.
Oh, that might be the pull of the night. It might be the pull of the night.
Ken Brew, that was done with horsepower and ground speed. He had the truck geared perfect. And look at him, and he's got more ground speed. He's pulling the sled faster than anyone else. And that's so important to get that momentum going for you right off the starting line. He did that, but he carried the momentum all the way down the track, well past the 150-foot mark.
All right, now let me ask you this. We talked about drivers going to school. Drivers that had the later draws going to school on the drivers that had gone early in the poll. could they be outside now? Some of these guys that have yet to pull, maybe adjusting the gears and things like that.
Well, yes, you see a hook like that. You see what kind of ground speed, how the track held up underneath him. It definitely wants to make you change the transmission. You may want to change the tire pressure a little bit. There's a number of things that you could do to compensate for the track conditions.
The Rough Rider, there he is, Jess Alarcon, Dos Patos, California. 158 feet, 11 inches. Fine pull tonight for that man. Backing up, ready to go, is the Rat Patrol. Chet Longacre behind the wheel. An interesting story. Maybe a man you might even want to salute when you see him. Mike Galloway has the inside story on the Rat Patrol and Chet Longacre.
I'm with Chet Longacre, and Chet drives the Rat Patrol truck. And Chet, a lot of trucks to choose from when you built this one. Why particularly the military?
Well, when I built this truck 3 years ago, I was in the military, in the Navy, and I've been associated with the military for 27 years, so this was a natural for me at that time. It's patriotic, and it's a different look. It's a lot more to it than just chrome and fancy paint. It's a unique look.
Chet, when you were in the military, in the Navy, what was your occupation?
I'm a Navy pilot, or was at that time, and I even started in submarines as an enlisted man many, many years ago.
There's got to be a lot of difference between flying a jet several hundred miles an hour and going 20 or 30 miles an hour down a pull track. Why the pull sport?
I got involved in pulling a long time ago from the stock tractor standpoint in the farming community, and it's something that we got into as a family. It's a big family affair for us, and my sons have been very active and very supportive. That's why we're in it.
You also have another supporter that travels with you, helps wrench with you, and does everything.
Yes, my wife, Darlene. She's a real road warrior. She's hung in there and supported us through thick and thin, from washing the vehicle to shining the tires, whatever. She's really good.
Now, around the pull circuit, it takes you longer to get ready to pull and to get ready to go home than anyone. Is that from the jet pilot?
Oh, yes, it is. I'm afraid. I get a lot of ribbing about that, but the real fact is when you check out an airplane, you got to make sure that thing's going to stay in the air. And that's where I learned attention to detail and making sure things are right. And I carry that over into pulling, and that's why I have such great luck with engines, for instance. They last a long time.
Why the carburetors instead of injectors?
I felt the carburetors offered us a good deal more control in the critical part of the track, and that's right off the start line. Rather than have the on-off switch effect of injectors, I can control the carburetors with the hand throttle much more precisely. That's why I use them.
There's Chet. Nice shot of him inside the cab of the Rat Patrol. He's had a lot of problems lately with braking axles. He says it's this new motor, and it just caused him a whole lot of grief with that front end.
There's the carburetors on it, and this is a different setup than probably 90% of the pullers are running here tonight. The carburetors setting up on top of the motor, Chet likes them. They give him, feels like it gives them a little more control out of the hole. Many times we've talked before, the first 25, 30 feet is the most important part of any pull. Chet could really set a mark tonight. Good motor. He can keep it together.
Yeah, that could be the pull of the night. Longacre has gone to school on what went before him and maybe has set the standards.
160 feet, 10.5 inches, the leading mark. He is just almost in the identical mark of the leading puller. It's going to be in just a moment. We'll get a measurement, but a fine hook.
The Rat Patrol says he's going to replace that front end pretty soon, but the one he's got on now isn't doing too bad.
Watch Chet. Chet goes a lot further down the track before he ever calls on the motor to come to life. He goes probably 50 feet, and when he does, he's got good rolling start on it and mashes the throttle hard. The truck is hooked excellent. Front end coming up just a little bit in the air, but you'll notice the truck really digging in and making the front end working. And see how the tires are working back and forth on the front end. That's what's putting the strain and the load on that axle.
158 feet and 9 inches. Chuck Longacre behind the wheel of Rat Patrol. And that should move him into third place.